Chris here with the Mi Pad 3. So it's the upgrade, well not really, of the Mi Pad 2. The chipset has gone now to an ARM hexa-core. So we've moved away from the Atom x86 chipsets because the new Apollo Lake doesn't actually support Android. So I can see why they've moved over. I was really hoping for a Snapdragon 820 or 821, but they've gone with a MediaTek hexa-core chipset this time around. They could have even gone actually for a MediaTek Helio X20 or X25. Anyway, chipset wise, not really much of an improvement, I don't think, but I will check that out. I'll run Antutu, but some things have been improved. The initial design is good, but what they've added is a Type-C port now, slightly larger battery. We do have double the RAM, which is great. We've gone from 2 gigabytes to 4 gigabytes now, and the storage starts at 64. In fact, that's the only option you get. eMMC 5 spec, so it should be a lot faster than the previous generation, the internal storage. And so let's get this one unboxed, take a greater look at it, and I also will compare it to these two other tablets I have here, which is the JD Tab J01 and then the i5 Mini 4S. Both of these are Retina 7.9 inch Android tablets. I ordered this one here from gearbest.com and I got the DHL shipping, as you can see from the packet. Now I had to pay 28.15 euros there, taxes, that's always the way. You don't want to pay the taxes, then go for the freer, slower post methods. I pretty much say that in every single video. Okay, so well packed up in that super bubble wrap. And here we can see that this one is still in the factory sealed wrapper, which is great. Has not even been opened up, so I'll be the first to check this one out. Often they do open up the boxes, they do their pre-inspection checks, make sure there's no faults, and set it into English. Now this only is going to have Chinese and English at the moment because there's no global ROM for this particular model just yet, because it's only just come out in the last week or two. Okay, so there we have the tablet. I'm just going to put it to one side for a second. Have a look at what else we get in the box. So USB cable to Type-C there. The charger, which is very small, that's tiny. And that is rated to 5 volts, 2 amps. So that's just the standard charging rate there. I will check out later on to see if it is going to support quick charge. Instructions here, just pointing out a few things, and that is all in Chinese, to be expected, and there is nothing else in the box there. So it weighs 333 grams, which is not bad at all. And it's just over 7 millimeters there at 7.14. So in hand, the build quality of it, so far I can see, feels great. I mean, this is just like the Mi Pad 2, which had a very premium build to it, and this really is exactly the same. So we have a pre-applied screen protector here. You need to remove that, of course, otherwise the screen's going to look all blurry. And on the back, we've just got a little cover there for the 13 megapixel rear camera. So get this off, and we'll have a closer look at the tablet. So starting with the top front here, we've got a 5 megapixel camera. To the left of it is the ambient light sensor, and I can see just along here there is a status LED, just like the Mi Pad 2. On the right side we have the power button and then the volume up and down buttons. These are made out of metal, they've got a good feel to them, and they don't rattle around or anything, which is good. On the top there's a 3.5mm audio jack. Now this apparently supports microphones. And there's nothing else on the left side, so there's no buttons or anything there. On the bottom, 2 Torx screws holding in the rear unibody alloy housing. The Type-C port there, of course. Up along here, we do have backlit menu buttons, but you can't see them at the moment. When I power it on, I'll show you those. On the back is where we have the 2 loudspeakers, so they're rear firing. These sounded really good on the Mi Pad 2, and I believe it's the same hardware, so I'm expecting decent sounding speakers. The Mi logo there, and then there's designed by Xiaomi in Beijing, made in China, which is etched into the rear metal. And on the back, the upper left-hand side, we've got the new 13 megapixel camera with autofocus, f2.2 aperture. Next to that is a microphone, and then right in the middle, this tiny little dot there, you can see that's a secondary microphone there for stereo recording and videos. So just powering it on now for the first time, you can see those backlit capacitive buttons there now. I'll go through the setup. Check and see whether this is indeed Android 7 it is running. So here's the language options. So we've got Chinese, English, Tibetan, I think it is, someone pointed out. So no multi-language, no European languages and all the rest of the languages you get. You're going to need a global ROM for that. I can see it is detecting wireless N networks. I'm not going to connect up to that just yet. And just quickly go through that. So that was good. Actually, that was a painless, quick setup. And I can see that my unit's got at least 50% battery. So there's a fair bit of bloatware on here. We've got the typical stuff you always get with MIUI. A lot of this can actually be removed, which is really good. Now, because this was a sealed box, it's not going to have Google Play installed. So I'll go through settings here, have a quick look. So we can see that, yes, it is running Android version 7.0. And you see there the 4 gigabytes of RAM, hexa-core max 2.1 gigahertz is the top boost. MIUI 8.2 stable is the version, well 8.2.5. Have a look and see under storage how much free space you get. So 56 gigabytes. Now, of course, this cannot be expanded upon. There is no micro SD card support on this, which is, it's sad. I really wish they would just add a slot in there. I don't think it would be too difficult for them to do that, but they seem to have a thing against that. So there's no haptic feedback. There is no little motor in there giving a vibration when I touch those keys at all. Here is a close-up of the screen. Now, it is fully laminated. There were some people claiming that it's not fully laminated. They've done what they did Apple with the iPad 2017 version. They put a non-laminated display, but clearly not the case here. I am seeing some light leakage. You can see along the top here. Now, that is very common when you get the fully laminated panel. So the one glass solution, they also call it, because it's optically bonded, the touch digitizer and then the IPS panel below. And so you get that light leakage. You can just see it just around those edges. I don't know if you can pick that up on camera. You see how the green is darker over here, then it's a little bit lighter along the top. That's the backlight or the light leaking in through. Just around the edges, I'm seeing it a little bit along here, but it doesn't look that bad to me. I've connected it up to the internet now, and it has advised me straight away that there is a newer version of MIUI, that it's 8.2.8 is the latest stable, and that's just a simple fix. It says the app icon wasn't shown after the app was installed. Okay, that actually could be a bit of a major. You don't want to install applications and then not have its shortcut or its icon show. So Google Play can be installed as mentioned, but it was actually quite a mission to get it to work. Now, I have noticed that now and then it is locking up on me. It's not perfect, but there is a solution on TechTablets.com. I have an article there, which I will link in the description of this video if you do have one of these and you want to get Google Play installed. Basically, it just involves moving a file over, then restoring it using the backup system. So now that I've got Play installed, I have actually run Antutu, and I'll show you the score of that, which is, okay, 81,000. That's not too bad. That's not really that much higher than the Mi Pad 2, which, correct me if I'm wrong, gets around 72,000 or 70,000. So it's around 10,000 more, but not a huge increase in performance here. If you want to see minor, well, the more details we have here, I will just zoom the camera in. So you can get a better look at those scores there. Compare that to your own tablet, but really not much of an improvement. Okay, so let's have a closer look at the chipset on there. So the GPU is a PowerVR. It's the Rogue GSX 6250, and the whole chipset is the MediaTek MT8176. So we've got two ARM Core Tex A72s at 2.11 gigahertz, and then another three lower powered A53s at 1.7 gigahertz. And I can see that they must have a interactive governor there, which is working quite well. It's turning off the cores. You can see at times that it's stopping, closing them off, stopping those cores there. And sometimes it's just running with the one core because it's only displaying this. I'm not doing anything demanding, so that's normal that it's doing that. So have a look under sensors and see what else we have on here. So Bosch accelerometer, ambient light sensor there. You can see that's the Lux, so that's the sensor that's located just next to the 5 megapixel camera that I pointed out in the beginning of the video. Rotation vector sensor, magnetic, gyroscope. So it should be good for gaming. At least it's got a proper gyroscope and quite a few sensors on there. Battery, that doesn't really list anything. Thermal, no thermal data. Okay, so the sensors it's using, they're not supported. It's not picking that information up. And Android 7, of course. Mi Pad 3, codename Kapu. Now it's time to test out those two rare firing speakers it has. Alright, they sound good to me. They max out about 87 decibels and they've got a little bit of bass to them. Not bad, the quality of those speakers. Very similar to the JD Tab that I tested out, which has H&K speakers on it. A very quick comparison here. Right in the middle here, this is the JD Tab J01. Then we have the i5 4S. This is priced around 99 US to 120 US. This is about 260, sorry. And this here is selling for around 280, 260 at the time of this video, of course, here with prices. So the cheapest model, 4000 milliamp hour battery, all have the same screen, quad core, hexa-core. Now the best performance comes out of this one, Antutu scores. I will quickly show you those if I can bring up the gallery. Where is it? So here we go. Bring up Antutu. So there we see that 71,000 from the quad core, 51,000 from the Rocktech quad core, which is kind of to be expected. It's the 3288, and this is a similar chipset to this one, but it's missing 2 cores, same GPU on there, the Power VR that it's got there. So 81,000 fastest so far. Now they all have the same screen as just mentioned before. 2 gigabytes of RAM, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 4 gigabytes of RAM. Build quality, I would say that so far the Mi Pad 3 definitely is the best. It's thinnest, slightly lighter, only by a few grams really, and you'll see that it is the smallest as well. There it fits just inside the dimensions of the JD Tab and the i5 Mini 4S. It's almost about the same size. They're very similar dimensions to the iPad Mini 4. So let's have a look at the camera now. This is the MIUI 8.2.8 updated camera app. You can see that it's slightly different. So along here where you have your typical filters, if I tap it correctly, that you can go along and change if you want an artistic look to it or whatever. I normally never touch those filters. But here we have literally no options. So I'm in camera mode, but we can't select the resolution. We can't do anything, which is disappointing to see. Nothing else. Let's just change over to the front camera there. If I go now into video mode, you'll see no options whatsoever. Now swiping up or down there, that doesn't do a thing. So disappointing to see that we've got no control. So I have no idea if I'm shooting in 720p or 1080p. But anyway, I'm going to go outside now, take a few photos, get some video from the front and rear cameras. So you'll at least have a little bit of a preview there before my full review. So here's a look at the front-facing camera. So it's 5 megapixels. I think it has the same f2.2 aperture. Now there's no settings whatsoever to control the video resolution. I don't know whether this is recording in 720p or 1080p, but the quality looks okay. So I'm shooting indoors, as you can see. I wouldn't call it low light, but it's not the best lighting conditions. I'll see how it handles me sitting down now, just darker, the audio exposure. So far looks okay. A little bit blurry now, I can see. It's almost as if it's using some sort of focus, but it isn't, unless it's using digital focus. And now it looks like it's over sharpening. So it seems all right. I'll go outside now and test the rear camera, which of course is the new 13 megapixel sensor. Sample now from the 13 megapixel rear camera. So this is Roman ruin here, mentioning Octavius. Of course his statue's gone years ago, 2,000 years ago or whenever. This is the Plaza of Denia. So, as I mentioned before, I don't know whether this is 720p or 1080p until I get it on my computer. Quality looks, I guess, reasonable for a tablet, but I wouldn't be using it. I don't think I'd stick to my mobile phones. Alright, so that is the Mi Pad 3. I see absolutely no reason to get this if you're an existing Mi Pad 2 owner, unless of course you've only got the 16GB version, but they've lost Windows support, which is a shame, but I kind of expected that to happen. Since the Apollo Lakes don't support Android anymore, there's no way they could make a dual boot version anymore, or have a version that's Windows and Android with the same chipset. So the chipset on it, 81 and 22 score, 81,000 is, I guess, okay, average. I'm just disappointed that they didn't put something with a little more power in here. Perhaps they could have gone with some more faster Deca-core MediaTek chipsets if they had to use MediaTek, that is. I really was hoping and crossing fingers for a Snapdragon 821 or 820 version, which is just disappointing. They didn't do that. Perhaps there's a Pro version coming that's going to be a lot more beefier, a lot more powerful than what we have here. So we'll be back in the full review with a lot of tests, battery life, charge times, PDFs, everything I can really think of. There will be a separate gaming video, so I hope to see you then. Apart from me being disappointed personally with the chipset in there, it is a really nice tablet. The build quality is great. The screen looks good. The audio sounds good. Overall, it's looking like it's going to be a decent little tablet here. So hopefully I'll see you back in the review. Bye for now.